when I'm going to events this summer, I think I want to start bringing a case of Diet Coke. A can of Diet Coke. A can of Diet Coke makes me feel so good inside. And I'm tired of hiding it. I'm tired of people telling me aspartame, Splenda, blah, 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 blah. I need to be pretty.
Then do it.
I need to feel good.
I mean, yeah.
They say it all starts, you need to feel good on the inside. And you know what makes me feel good on the inside?
Diet Coke.
A can of Diet Coke.
Good morning, sweet world, and welcome to the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network. It's Wednesday, May 29th, 2024. I'm J.E. Skeets here in the Classic Factory. Alongside me, as always, Tass Mellis.
Podcast listeners, this is for you.
Next to him, it's the bearded one, Matapsha Hot Boy, Trey Kirby.
Hey-o.
Hey-yo. And last but not least, over yonder, right over there, making the magic happen, super producer JD.
Hello.
There he is, and here we are. Shout out to the stream team joining us live on YouTube. Podcast listeners, please consider leaving your boys a 5-star rating and review on today's pod. We're going to play a little fill in the blank. It's been a while since we've filled in some blanks.
Indeed.
And TK's got tweet of the night. But the Western Conference Finals, we got one more game at least. Karl-Anthony Towns found his shot, and the Wolves finally closed a game out. Cat scored 20 of his 25 points in the second half, and Ant finished just one assist shy of a triple-double as the Wolves held off the Mavericks 105-100. They avoid the sweep. Game 5 is Thursday night, and they really had their superstars tasks in Ant and Cat outplay Luka and Kyrie a majority of the game, and really, in the clutch.
For sure. The first half was fun, though. Trebo, I would say. Rudy Gobert out there dancing the minuet out there, I thought, in the first quarter. Anthony Edwards, the post-up, the threes looking great. They obviously needed somebody to help them out. I don't know if it's Naz Reid, if it's Mike Conley, but it was Cat, because first half was quiet, 5 points, then going into the halftime, I guess somebody said something. First possession, you're going to do something, man. First possession, he drove. It was a big drive, another drive, and then he got his fourth foul, and Chris Finch had to decide, we're going to keep this guy in? Yes, they did. And he hit another floater and a three, and then a fifth foul where he just banged P.J. Washington's face.
Yeah, it was really knocked him.
He really hit him. How do they challenge? They challenge that.
Did they? I thought they just went and reviewed it because he got hit in the face.
Oh, for the flagrant part. Yeah, my mistake. I just think everything's a challenge these days.
They'll figure out a way to do it at any time.
A review. And then in the fourth quarter, he played with 5 fouls. So did Rudy Gobert. And he hit back-to-back threes. They're up 5 with 5 minutes left. Still, we're all wondering, will they finish? Because this happened in game 2 where they were up this many points, almost exactly to the minute. Yeah. But he comes out after Luka tried to respond. He tried to respond right after that, up 5. With 5 minutes left, Luka went bang, 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 bang. A real rattler. That didn't go down. Cat, another 3. Kyrie Irving just wasn't himself at the end. He just got into the lane but decided, I'm going to pass it. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. He turned it over. Those two guys just weren't themselves in the closing minutes for the first time in this series. Mm-hmm. That just changed. While Cat was himself, another 3. And then Anthony Edwards was great. Sometimes he wasn't, but he just kept going. He kept going. The steal of P.J. Washington, he did a mean turnaround with a pivot in the lane and then a 2-step. He had the ball in his 2-step, and he just finished it off while Kyrie turned it over. Luka missed. The Wolves just did it at the end there. Karl-Anthony Towns, 10 points in the third quarter, 10 points in the fourth quarter. Karl, Rudy, and Anthony Edwards had 20 combined in the fourth there. So they did it. They did it. It just felt like one of those games that they got there, and for the first time in 4 games, they were the closers.
Yeah. Karl-Anthony Towns came into that game last night shooting 28%. And last night, game 4, 9 of 13, and the 4 of 5 from deep, and a lot of them down the stretch. The one to put them in the lead, and then another one right after that, and then another 3, like you said, with like 3 minutes to go. Hits shots, and you got a chance here. And then they got stops on the other end as well, and part of that was, the stars for Dallas. They were missing in this game. It sounds so simple, but it really has been in this series, in a pretty close series that is 3-1 still Dallas. The games where the star players for Dallas, or the star players played their best down the stretch, they've won the game. 4 games in a row now.
Barkley's right. The stars have to be stars, and this is the first time that Cat and Ant outplayed Luka and Kyrie. If I'm not mistaken, in the first 3 games, Luka and Kyrie finished 1 and 2 in scoring. in every one of those games, except for game 2 when Towns had 21 and Kyrie had 20. Like, this has been a blowout for Luka and Kyrie, except for this game. 54 points on 53% shooting for the Timberwolves. Stars, 44 points on 33% shooting for the Stars on the Mavericks. And that's the game right there. I loved Cat's approach in the second half. Wasn't just chucking threes. Got a bunch of layups, finally hit the rip through for the floater down on the baseline, and then he started shooting threes. Saw the ball actually go in a few times before getting into some pretty tough shots, like the no, yes shot. That was a crazy one. PJ Washington was all over him. He just shot over the top of him because he was a 7-foot-tall dude. Ant, I thought, was smart in this game. He was letting the game come to him, picking his spots, and not really forcing things. He hit 5 non-restricted area 2-pointers in this game. I said he's got to embrace the mid-range. In the previous 3 games, he'd hit 6 total. You mentioned the step through in the lane. He also had the silencer when he hit a 20-footer off of the pick and roll with about 38 seconds left. Put Minnesota 5, though they did their best to at least keep Dallas in the game. After that, some crazy stuff was happening. I just thought he was very patient. He took what the defense gave him. He had 9 assists. He did have 6 turnovers. Those came when he was getting too far into the lane, but he played really smart. And then Minnesota turned in their first real defensive performance of this series. Dallas came in averaging 120 offensive rating. That would have been the best in the playoffs. They had 109 offensive rating in game 4. That's Hornets mode. Part of it is that Jaden McDaniels was guarding Kyrie, threw him off with the length because Kyrie was out of it all game. He had a really weird turnover in the fourth quarter. His lefties weren't dropping as regularly. Shots that he makes did not go in. Anthony Edwards, Kyle Anderson, they were sticking Luka. They made him work. One of the great things about Luka Doncic is if you look at his hair, you can tell how hard he has had to play during a game. One of the sweatiest guys in the league, a lot of volume on the hair.
Right.
So if his bangs are still sticking up in the fourth quarter, you lost.
Right.
But his bangs were smashed down
drenched
onto his face. He was drenched in sweat. He really had to work. And biggest thing, in the fourth quarter, the Timberwolves didn't let Luka and Kyrie play one-on-one. Anytime they would run a screen and roll, it seemed like there would be a second when they could play one-on-one, and it would be Conley jetting over. It would be McDaniels jetting over to get the ball out of their hands, have somebody else take the shot. It's a make-or-miss league, and Dallas went 3 for 12 from 3 in the fourth quarter, and one of those was the Luka one with like 5 seconds left or something like that. They didn't get the big clutch 3 from PJ Washington. They didn't get one from Derrick Jones Jr. when it mattered. Everything that needed to go right for the Timberwolves, it flipped in this game.
Yeah. I was impressed with their first quarter from the Wolves, especially Anthony Edwards getting to the free throw line. I thought was big. I think he had 8 free throw attempts in the first quarter alone. He missed a couple of them, but still putting pressure on them. Cat right away, he scored like 80 seconds into the game. It was a drive, just like he did to start the second half. And then they had great ball pressure too. You know, Conley and that team. They were locked in to begin. They were up 27-20. It was a great start. And then I was just really impressed with Cat and Ant. They didn't let go of the rope there in the third quarter when I thought, suddenly like Hardy was exploding for the Mavericks. They had a couple back-to-back threes. It was like, oh man, this might be it. And they just sort of refused to, again, let go of it. They just stuck around, and they led that little 8-0 run themselves to maintain the game really and a chance to extend the series. So those two guys, yeah, really impressive. And I'm glad you brought up Kyle Anderson. There was parts there on those Karl-Anthony Towns threes where he's directing traffic. He's like, nope. It's, hey, look, he's going to be open behind me. I'm going to set the screen over here. He's like pointing. And he also helped Cat hit the one before that too with the pick and stuff like that. And he played great on Luka. I mean, you need the size on a guy like Luka to make it a little more difficult. So him and Ant, who can play a little more physical than maybe a McDaniels can because he gives up so much weight, that worked out in Game 4.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a bonus that you're slow on the defensive side, like slow-mo, because you're sort of match Luka. You don't give him a space for a second, like Jaden McDaniels does, but Luka just didn't bang home a couple shots late. I mean, this really came down to those shots that, as I said, the rattler, and another shot that Luka missed from 3, where him and Kyrie just weren't excellent at the end. And then Anthony Edwards said after the game, I just didn't want to get swept. I've never been swept. I've never been swept in my career here. So hopefully that extends to Game 5 for them, and it wasn't just a one-game thing. But they obviously had their best players feeling good when all 3 of those guys in Gobert, Cat, and himself felt good and kept it going. Yeah, they were balling like a team, and they had the extensions of obviously Kyle Anderson. Naz Reid had a beautiful when Karl-Anthony Towns went to the bench with his 5th foul. Reid came in, blasted quickly to the hoop. That nimble move past Gafford was awesome. So everybody was contributing, is what I'm getting at. Nickeil Alexander-Walker finally hitting 2 threes. He only hit 1 3 in the first 3 games of this series. Yeah, everybody was there. Everybody was there on this night.
Yes, Kyrie Irving's streak of playoff closeout games comes to an end. He was 14-0 heading into the Western Conference Finals here. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, anytime Kyrie's team had earned a third victory in a 7-game series, they had won that 4th game immediately afterward to clinch, but that streak is over here, of course. And he struggled, like you guys said, 6 of 18. That was a nice switch up there from Finch, at least in terms of the major assignments to put McDaniels, maybe the length got to Kyrie a little bit, and like we said, the size maybe on Luka. And just Kyrie just played a sloppy game too. Like he was stepping out of bounds, and he was throwing the ball like low for his guys. That resulted in a couple turnovers. This was just his worst game of this series, and in the end, it was enough for Minnesota to give us Game 5. Do you think there's any chance they can do the impossible here? We know the stat. No team's ever come back down 3-0. 155-0 when you take a 3-0 lead, something like that. We saw the Celtics force a Game 7. They're going home at least. They'll have Games 5 and potentially Game 7 home. Could this be the team to become the first to ever do it, or just the position Dallas had them in? They'll wrap this up in 5, 6, or 7. What do you think?
I mean, it's a no for me, Doug. I don't think they're going to win it in 7. I actually think the Mavericks will probably win Game 5. I actually didn't like that Anthony Edwards interview on the court where he's like, I just didn't want to get swept.
Yeah.
That's just one game, man.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And Minnesota, 3-4 at home in the playoffs. It's not like they have a great home court advantage where they're winning every single game out there. I do think the curveball of switching up the defensive matchups with McDaniels going on Kyrie, Ant going on Luka, that works really well for one game, but I also felt like Luka and Kyrie were getting shots that they made the first 3 games. Sometimes you just miss. So I assume they will be completely locked in. Like, I didn't really buy the Mavericks' excuses after the game where they're like, we didn't come out with energy. I didn't really think that was the case. I thought they played hard enough. They played the same way they've played the previous 3 games in this series. The shooting just went Minnesota's way, so I would probably take Dallas in 5, but it definitely gives Minnesota some hope getting a game back home. Now it's like, oh, is the pressure on the Mavericks? No, the pressure's still on Minnesota. You're 1 loss away from being eliminated here, so we'll see how they respond.
Yeah, I think we all, myself included, want to make anything that they say into a story. And Anthony Edwards saying, hey, I've never been swept in my career. Does that bode it well for Minnesota? No, but does it mean anything for Minnesota? No. I mean, I don't think it really means anything. And I think we're all sort of making a little bit more of the Jane McDaniels defense on Kyrie. Kyrie was shooting in front of everybody, and he just had a bad game. And we got to the same point in the fourth quarter that we got into earlier in this series, where Minnesota was up late, 2 guys executed. Kyrie and Luka, they just weren't in an incredible flow in this one. As I said, the Rattlers, things were just not happening late in this game. So, no, I doubt that Minnesota can turn it around for 4 games. That's a lot of basketball games.
And I thought we saw the difference of the Mavericks missing Derek Lively, the second in this game.
Yeah, that did happen.
You had Powell in there. That did not go well. He had a dumb turnover right away where he sort of like didn't know what to do with the ball. Then you even saw the next possession, the limitations of having Powell and not Lively out there, where it was like, if it was Lively, it was probably a lob type sort of threat that Luka could throw, but Powell, they're not concerned as much of that, so they could just clog it up and all that. So we'll see if Lively the second is good to go in Game 5 in Minnesota on Thursday night. I'm not sure that's confirmed. He's there on the bench though, and he's popping up and into the game. You would think the neck sprain will be healed enough for him to give it a Game 5. We saw Maxi Kleba. He looked like a guy that hadn't played in a while.
It looks painful watching him shoot.
Yes.
He has a bad shoulder, and it looks like you haven't used your arms in a week and a half.
100%. He was super hesitant to ever let one rip, and then when he did, it looked like he couldn't get his arms up. I'm with you.
He looked terrible.
He sort of had one good drive, I think, in this game. But, we'll see again if Lively comes back, if that changes things. What else from this one? What do you got in your notes here? From a very, I guess the whole point I asked you the question, because, it's never been done before. It probably won't. Dallas is a really good team. They might still have the 2 best guys in the series. But, like the Celtics, who at least forced a Game 7, you've got the thing where, if it's going to happen, it's likely going to happen in this type of scenario where you were the home team that are now down, but then you're going back and maybe have 5 and 7 at home. You've got star guys. And, you've played a really competitive series, too. That's the other thing. This hasn't been blowout. These have been very close. So you've got that going if you're a Minnesota fan. Why not? Why can't we be the first? but you got to go back to Dallas first. You just got to do the whole one at a time, which is maybe why those Ant comments don't really mean too much. Yeah.
And it almost happened last year. This is a different scenario, but we did see a Game 7.
Were they the first team to force a Game 7?
No, 4 times in history it's been done. I think
Not
maybe
very often.
Maybe first time in a long time, but yeah, 4 times a team has even forced a Game 7 after going down 3-0.
It would be huge for Minnesota to send their fans home with a playoff win.
Yeah.
At home, right? Like
Yeah.
the last 3 games after the way you beat the Nuggets, you think that's the championship. Everybody's saying that's the Western Conference Finals right there. Then you lose your 3 home playoff games. That would be a bummer. So I'm sure it'll be very, very loud. Alex Rodriguez is going to be going crazy.
Oh, he's going to be going nuts.
He's going to come in and high five Anthony Edwards. He loves doing that. So it is true that Dwight Powell was a little slow in this game. He became a target on defense. I didn't realize that was going to be a thing. But Dwight Powell is just not as active defensively as Lively. So that would be a difference maker. I don't know if Dante Exum's got another 5-0 run in him that like he had in this game. That was cool. Another lefty? He had not another lefty, a lefty in addition to Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
His lefty. That was weird. So, they had a lot of things going for them in this game. And I think Chris Finch's move of playing Karl-Anthony Towns with 5 fouls, well, with 4 fouls, first of all, then 5 fouls, then Rudy Gobert with 5 fouls was big in this game. It was monstrous in this game. Those two all came through in every single way.
I think that's such a smart thing for the Timberwolves to do. Anytime either of those guys get into foul trouble, just let them play.
Yeah.
If they foul out, guess what? You have your adjustment made.
Yeah.
We'll bring in Nasri.
Yeah.
You bring in Nas.
Yeah, you're like, everybody should sit. You should sit Rudy. Okay, well, he fouled out. You should sit Towns. Okay, he fouled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the one play where Kyrie went at Rudy Gobert, and Rudy Gobert literally, he went backwards.
Yeah.
He was not going to block the shot, not even going to come close to alternating the shot. But Kyrie missed because Rudy was there.
Yeah.
And he was obviously off. And maybe the Mavs, in retrospect, should have gone more at Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns just because they were not blocking shots at that point. So maybe that's a thing for them to watch in film review. But you're allowed to have one bad game in 4 games for the Dallas Mavericks. They just didn't close out a game. So TBD on this one.
We had a couple little dust-ups, if you want to call them that. We had Luka taking offense to Kyle Anderson in the first quarter for throwing a little shoulder, is what Luka thought. So they sort of got into it. And then we had, the crowd, the Dallas crowd, chanting "Rudy sucks" at one point in this game after Gobert and I guess Derrick Jones Jr. Got into it. A double tech eventually was called on that one after... You betcha, Tess. They went and looked at it.
Oh, yeah.
And
They look at everything.
Text.
They look at everything. Stan Van was complaining about the video reviews in this one.
That one took forever.
That one took a long time. Especially, we all knew, and they were saying on the brass, we're going to have a double tech here.
Yeah.
It's going to be a well-deserved double tech, and we are just going to take so long. I always wonder, maybe the refs are a little tired themselves. They're trying to buy some time.
Taking a breath.
They're telling Secaucus, hey, take your time with this one, man. I'm feeling it. What a crew we had, too, last night. Scott Foster, Ed Malloy, and Bill Kennedy. Wow. What a crew.
Hey, when Bill Kennedy's on the call, he's got to be the guy talking to the camera.
He wasn't even one of the guys at the monitor.
He was just hanging back.
Scott Ned.
Hang back, Bill.
Yeah, no, he was
The extender comes through, though, man. You got to love it. You got to love it. What did you say about Rudy Gobert at the beginning? Something about a minuet?
Yeah, it's a French dance.
It's a French dance. Well, I like to hear that because I felt like Rudy Gobert was getting his flowers last night for the first time ever. Draymond Green credited him for bringing physicality. Did he clown on him for coming in with his arms up during the Derrick Jones Jr. confrontation? Of course he did. But then he's like, I actually like that. He brought physicality. You could see Draymond through gritted teeth saying nice things about Gobert, but at least he said it. And at one point, Kevin Harlan called one of his layups elegant. I thought that was nice. Yeah. And it was elegant.
Yeah. And he did a good job at the end of the game on Kyrie there, down the stretch there. He did a good job of preventing anything from happening moving his feet, obviously using his size, and I think that resulted in a turnover there. But we clown, or people clowned, of course, Draymond leading the charge, when he got put on an island against Luka and everyone suddenly wants to take away his Defensive Player of the Year trophy. Well, you got to give him a little love when he has another guy that is probably the best ball handler of all time, in crying out loud, in Kyrie Irving, and he did a good job of sticking with him and making it tough. He did play a good game. This probably gets overlooked because Ant and Cat, hit all the shots, or the timely shots.
Yeah. And it feels like after the game, watching him do his little dance, being elegant going to the rim, that he probably would have had 20? Not even anywhere close.
No.
No, he was just 4 or 5 from the floor. Yeah. But it felt like there was a lot of points.
Excellent.
Excellent. And a bit of a no-look pass, sort of over his shoulder kind of pass, which was a very nice look. You don't see that from Rudy Gobert, ever. The only thing you could say negative about Rudy Gobert is dude's 5 of 9 from the line, and Anthony Edwards was 5 of 8 from the line. Those dudes, overall, their team shot 64% from the free throw line and still won a game.
Yeah.
Amazing. That doesn't happen very often. Doesn't feel like anyway.
So TK's leaning towards Dallas taking care of business in what would be a gentleman's sweep if they do win Game 5. Would you pick that also happening, or do you think Minnesota can at least get this back to Dallas for Game 6?
They have found a flow, I guess, at the end of games, but I would pick Dallas. Yeah, I would.
I don't know. It's tough with good old Karl-Anthony Towns, man. It's like this guy hit huge shots, and he can do this. He can. He is a really good three-point shooter who had just struggled, as we talked about, through this series. I think somebody said it was his worst 3-game stretch of his career in terms of shooting the ball, that inefficiently in the first 3 games. So can he keep it going? I couldn't believe we had Reggie Miller dropping a Catman-Do. Shout out to our guy Lee, who I thought came up with that insane nickname for Karl-Anthony Towns. And Reggie said it before, I do remember.
Oh, yes.
He said it a lot.
Yeah. But again, I don't know who came up with it. Was it Reggie or Lee? I always thought it was Lee. But Catman-Do makes me die when he says it.
Yeah, we had that tweet not too long ago about how brutal nicknames are.
Yeah. Catman-Do.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
That's
It's so bad. It's
like, Catman-Do.
He said something right before he said Catman-Do that he often says, and it wasn't just anything you can do, I can do better. It wasn't that, but he said
he did drop that.
He did say that. He did say that.
Yep.
He did say that. But he said something. I just searched on Twitter Catman-Do because he said something before that. But I got your tweet. You said, I can't believe Reggie calls Towns Catman-Do.
Yes.
But he said something directly or immediately before.
And you're trying to find it on Twitter right now?
Of course. Of course you can find everything on Twitter.
I can't find shit on Twitter.
Yeah.
The search sucks.
It does. But I advanced search it sometimes.
Okay,
got to
good for
do
you.
this, got to do that.
What, you got a blue check?
No.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely not. But advanced search is
Maybe
there.
it gives you more search capabilities with the blue check. I'm not sure. What else you got from this game, TK, while he's looking for a tweet?
My last thing was about that elegant finger roll from Rudy Gobert, because now I'm into the searching for Reggie Miller quotes as well.
Okay.
Now,
Anything Taz can do, I can do better.
Nice.
no, I don't expect it to be written in the tweet. I expect to have to watch the clip and have to hear it.
Okay.
That's most likely. So
Some people grind game film to break down matchups. We do it to find quotes from Reggie Miller.
Right.
now, Trey also brought up that Luka's hair looked, puffy before he got all sweaty.
Yeah.
Before it happened. Is your hair an ode to Luka Doncic? Because your hair looks slightly bigger.
Bigger, I just need a haircut.
Yeah, it is taller
yeah.
today.
But it's taller, yeah.
Sometimes we'll throw a little hairspray in there, get some height on it. It's taller than normal? Really?
I think so. Yeah.
Slightly.
Let us know.
Maybe it's
Let us
my
know down
angle. I
below.
don't know.
I'm seeing our guy Jason tomorrow. So enjoy this tall hair because it's going to be gone after tomorrow. I did like this Conley quote after the game. He said, in talking about Chris Finch, who did get a technical foul from the bench, when your coach is up getting technicals and yelling, and when you see him hobbling around to do it, it's impressive. It lit a fire under all of us. So Finch this was the most we'd seen him, I feel like, moving around, coming out from that second row and barking at the officials and barking out directions. Yeah, he's getting back into it. He's a game time decision for actual coach for Game 5, maybe. No, probably not. But that was good to see that. Even the team was like, "Yeah, damn, this guy's hobbling around out here. He doesn't want to go 1-2-3 Cancun.
He's
he wants
mad
to
about
live to
those.
fight another day."
Mad about the free throws, which were 13-12 at the time he was mad. Or was it? Yeah. I mean, it was within one, maybe 15-14. And they ended having 4 more, excuse me. So maybe it worked.
Possibly.
Maybe it worked for a couple calls from Scott, Ed, and Bill.
Well, there was the one on Karl-Anthony Towns where Luka goaded him into with the old pump fake out at the 3-point line, and then Karl, sort of obviously was going to contest the 3, tried to catch himself, and Luka, no doubt, did the old, I'm sort of shooting the ball here, but I'm just going to lean into you to draw the foul. seen it called a million times before, but also we've been told a little bit like, we're trying to cut that one out of the game because maybe it's not like a real shooting motion. And that was a big foul too, obviously.
Yes.
Karl-Anthony Towns, I think Simmons had it in his title for his podcast. It was one of the towniest games for Towns of all time, with the fouls and then the big playmaking and maybe even the quiet first half. You got it all there from a Karl-Anthony Towns game.
You got the classic Karl yelling at the referee, but kind of looking downwards. He's looking at the floor. That's how he started yelling at the ref. Like, he does that. I know we analyze absolutely every little thing, every video clip, and we know Karl does that. So he
you got it all from Karl last night.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's true. It wasn't Karl. What was Bill's title?
It was like the towniest Towns game or something like that. It's spot on. I mean, again,
Joe
most
Mazzulla was
positive
loving
negative.
it.
Yeah.
He loves Towns. I also, it's driving me crazy. They call this guy Anthony Towns all the time.
That's Reggie. It's only Reggie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows that his first name is Karl-Anthony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anthony Towns. Anthony Towns with the jumper.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Which makes it even twice as confusing because there's a guy named Anthony Edwards that's also playing out there.
Yeah.
It's even more crazy. All right. Well, let's hear from everybody out there. Do you think that Minnesota can at least get this to Game 6, maybe in their chances to do the unthinkable and somehow come back from a 3-0 deficit and win a best-of-7 series? Tell us. Or do you just think, we'll probably have a similar game to what we just had, and it will all be decided down the stretch from the star guys sort of hitting shots, Luka and Kyrie versus Ant and Cat.
Yeah, and we talked
Anthony Towns.
We didn't even talk about Derrick Jones Jr. flying for an alley-oop.
Oh my God.
That was cool.
Yeah.
There's so many other things that happened in this basketball
huge credit to the Wolves because there were those things. Okay, there was
Yeah.
Gafford scoring 3 straight times to start the second half. We already talked about like Exum hitting a left-hand floater because he saw Kyrie do it. He's like, oh, that's cool. I'll try that. We had Hardy going nuts there for that little explosion where I think he scored 10 of his 13, and he was on fire. And yeah, Derrick Jones Jr., the huge oop that got the crowd going bonk. Like there were so many times where I have to admit, I was like, it was a good fight. And they're probably going to let go of the rope and just say, all right, season's over. It was a good season, but we'll see you guys next year. And they didn't. They at least wanted to get back, bring your ass back to Minnesota. Now it's going to bring your ass back to Dallas, hopefully, for them. But I was really impressed. I thought there were many times where it's like, ooh, I don't know. In a game where you maybe just kept expecting Luka or Kyrie to have the takeover. And it was the other guys that did.
Yeah, I mean, I messaged my dad, same recipe.
Right.
Like, that's what it felt like. They're going to keep it close, and the closers are going to come through, but the closers were different guys in this one. So, big shout out to the Timberwolves. I feel like it's probably a 50-50 game in Game 5, just like most of these ones have been.
Yeah.
But it's easy to forget now, like, Luka and Kyrie had bad games in the playoffs earlier this season, right? We were talking about, is Luka ever going to have a game where he shoots over 50%? Is Kyrie Irving going to ever score over 14 points in a game? They had bad games earlier this playoffs run, so they've gotten it together here in the conference finals, but it's also like they have made some incredible shots through the first 3 games. They're going to miss eventually, and if they miss them again in Game 5, we're going to Game 6, baby.
Yeah, it is amazing when you look at their numbers and how poorly they shot and how the team shot 42% from the floor after seeing Luka and Kyrie both shoot 33%. That the Timberwolves shot 52%, and it wasn't a blowout by any means.
No.
They're playing. Dallas is playing great D. Period. Throughout this entire postseason.
Like Minnesota had a lot of turnovers, I believe, last night. That led to a lot of Dallas points, which is why we had a bit of a close score. But hopefully we get another competitive Game 5. That's Thursday night, so we'll be talking about that one on the Drop podcast on Friday. All right, let's pivot from the conference finals and let's go to fill in the blank. Well, our first fill in the blank actually has to do with the conference finals, because I just wanted to know, for you guys to fill in the blank and play along here in the stream team and podcast listeners, you can tweet in your answers at NoDunksInc. That's INC on the end. Fill in the blank. Highlight of the conference finals so far has been blank, Tess.
I have to start with the one that is clearly the biggest conference finals highlight. It's Luka hitting over Rudy Gobert. Okay. That's the one that we'll always remember. And you remember on the starters how we used to have that, the meme, the video edit of a player being sent into another universe, like it was like Bradley Beal or
Shooting stars. Beep, 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 beep.
There it is.
Yeah, the guy
There it is.
twirling into everything.
He's like on the Rainbow Road.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I had forgotten the song, but Rudy could be sent in that one. Why isn't that a meme already?
That's a great question.
The meme died, yeah.
Yeah, the meme did die.
It burned bright and died.
But Luka just went side to side and
Yeah.
side to side. What else is a 7-footer supposed to do out there 25 feet from the basket? So that one, we'll start with that one.
Yeah,
because
it's a
that's
good
the one
pick.
we'll remember. It's like, what do we remember from last year's conference finals? It's Jokic hitting over Anthony Davis twice. A big shot on the outside of the team that will eventually go to the finals. It feels like that. So that's why it was Luka for me for sure.
Okay, that's a great answer. I thought that would be at least one of the answers. Do you have anything else, TK?
That was my number one answer
Yeah.
as well, especially in particular for me. I will never forget like the baseline angle when you
Yes.
see him just
Yeah.
screaming in
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert's face. That is incredible. And like when you're looking at Luka's all-time highlight tape at the end of his career, that will guaranteed be on there.
Right.
The other one that has to be in the mix is the Jaylen Brown double bang.
Yep.
Crazy shot, especially like this one. I feel like the shot does look crazy when you watch it in live action, but the picture of Siakam being this close to
Right.
Jaylen Brown, I think really sells how in his shorts he was for that contest and how close Jaylen Brown is to stepping on the sideline there. The way they came back from 3 down, the Pacers had the ball with 10 seconds left. They were up 3.
Yeah.
That's the first time since 1998 a team has lost in that scenario. So pretty amazing. And then, of course, you throw in the fact that Jaylen Brown won the Larry Bird Trophy. I mean, he won it right there, if you ask me.
It's true. It's true. Well, I guess, he had a 40-point game after
did,
that, too.
yes.
Had a 29 in the closeout game. But, yeah, that one. He took the lead, we said.
He did,
after that.
yeah.
He is in the clubhouse leader for the Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP.
Yes, and you want to add the negative side to the Pacers, you could have Tyrese Haliburton putting it off his leg twice, losing 2 turnovers right there. If you want to edit it that way, if you want to be mean, I'm editing in the brain here, but I'm also in favor of guys here who are probably going to the finals. That makes a big difference when you look at these. It is probably going to be Luka and Brown in the finals.
You think the Celtics are watching last night's game going, come on, Minnesota. Come on, Wolves. Extend that series. Get everyone a little more tired. Even open up I'm sure they're not hoping for it, but the more you play, the more likely you might even get injured or pick up another nick here or there to take on. You've had a good run through the postseason of playing depleted teams. I just wonder how invested professional players are who are going to play in the finals of that game. Or on the other hand, they're like, just come on, Dallas, so we can game plan for 9 days against you, because there's that part of the equation as well.
I think they'd rather see Dallas in the same amount of rust as them, to have them as much time off as them. So when they're playing out there, they're wondering, this team is rusty too.
So you were saying they were hoping Dallas wins last.
Yeah, and Porzingis is definitely cheering for his old team. I want to play them. He wants to go against Luka a little bit.
Okay, fair. Well, somebody asked them, hey, were you watching the game and who were you cheering for? All right, next one here. The Indiana Pacers are reportedly expected to offer Pascal Siakam a max contract this summer in free agency. According to our guy Shams, re-signing Spicy P is the Pacers' biggest priority of the offseason. He's going to be eligible for a 5-year, $245 million contract. A full 5-year max would take Siakam through his 35th birthday. So, fill in the blank. TK, you get us started. Siakam reportedly receiving a max from the Pacers this offseason is
A done deal.
Okay.
He is going to receive the max offer.
Okay.
I think you can lock that one in. They traded Bruce Brown and 3 first-round picks to get Pascal Siakam. For a small market team like the Pacers, that is a lot to give up when you're not bringing in free agents, right? So part of the plan for them is we make this investment in Siakam, we pay him a huge contract, and he stays here and he takes our team to the next level. The bigger question to me is, does Siakam want to stay in Indiana? The fit was nice. The team was good. I would say not great. They definitely got some breaks. You mentioned he's 30 years old. It's going to be tough to turn down $250 million. So I ultimately think it's like 80-20 stay versus leave. But also Siakam is going to be one of the biggest free agents out there.
Yeah.
He could pick where he wants to go. He could go play for Philadelphia if he wanted to. Maybe that's a team that's closer to the championship. I don't know, because the Pacers, they're basically going to run it back, right? Like the way they're going to have their top 7 or 8 guys come back. They're going to have Benedict Mathurin play next season, and they're going to hope that a year of continuity after just a couple of months with Siakam in the mix is good enough to get them back where they were. I don't know if that's the case.
I agree. They have to. It's mandatory. You got to do it. you could look at the playoffs and say he was their best player. You could definitely look at it that way and say that he was extremely consistent. And are they going to get somebody better? Absolutely not. There's no chance. You have to pay this man a lot of money, and it works out with their salary cap because they've got guys coming off the books, and McDermott, a Daniel Tice, and they just aren't paying other guys a lot of money. So 30, yeah, it's a slightly aging for a Pascal Siakam, but that's fine. 4 years, and you got to do it before someone else does. You brought up Philly. There are other teams that would say max because they have gotten a roster makeup or a salary makeup, I should say, like an OKC. Why wouldn't they go get Pascal Siakam to be their starting 4 and play him? And he's a good teacher. Like they've got Jarris Walker, a young guy on their roster. He'd be perfect as a teacher for him. So Spicy P, who's not spicy anymore.
I was
Nobody
thinking
calls him that.
That's why I put that in there. I'm glad you said that. He lost his spice when he suddenly went to Indiana.
Crazy that would happen.
I know, but hey, we had something spicy in Indiana. In Indianapolis.
Well, we had horseradish.
It was the horseradish at the only restaurant in town. How does he not have? He should work on a little deal. Bring the spice back. The horseradish.
St. Elmo's P.
Yeah, right.
He's playing P right now.
Something I read from Bobby Marks on the Pacers offseason that jumped out to me. He said, quote, teams ESPN talked to during the season pointed to how the Pacers constructed their roster next season as a blueprint under the new CBA. 2 players on max contracts, Halliburton and potentially Siakam, followed by 9 players earning between $2 million and $19.9 million. And 5 of those guys, Mathurin, Walker, Jackson, Shepard, and Nembhard, are all on their rookie contracts. Just something to that jumped out to me, like, oh, maybe that moving forward, how you're going to have to work this is have obviously a bunch of cheap guys, a bunch of rookie contracts if you can, with your money players. And that 2 is where you sort of potentially draw the line, because there is the Obi Toppin question of all this. If they sign Siakam to this huge deal, I think they might have to get into the old luxury tax there if they want to bring back Obi Toppin, who we were really impressed with in the playoffs. It seems to be a role for him. But then again, they have a guy in Walker who never even played. I mean, there was no really minutes for him. Jackson obviously got a little bit of burn, but we'll see. That's a good problem to have. They have a lot of young, talented guys. Some we didn't see, unfortunately, because of injury in Mathurin, but Nembhard impressed a lot of people. Shepard did have moments. He went ice cold sort of at the wrong time, but they got some talent there. So Siakam, you guys think you're like 80 to 20 that he's there, even if not more.
I think it's his decision because he's going to get a max contract from the Pacers. Does he want to pass up an opportunity somewhere else? Is it a smart move for the Pacers long term? I don't know. You mentioned the 2 max contracts. Yeah, they would have Halliburton and they would have Pascal Siakam locked up. You're going to regret it, paying Pascal Siakam that much when he's 34 years old. This is a guy that gets by on athleticism. He's not what he was when he was in Toronto, though he's still a really good player. When he's 34, that's going to be tough stuff. I do believe, not to mention Miles Turner comes off the books after the 25 season, after next season. Going to pay him? You're gonna, how far are you going with Halliburton, Siakam, and Turner as your long-term 3 max contracts? That doesn't sound like a great idea to me. But the Pacers also like being in the playoffs. They went pretty far. They think they can get back there. I don't know if that's the case personally.
Yeah, Mathurin is sort of the X factor here. If he is awesome, maybe they go even further because he's just a damn good offensive player. They just needed offensive buckets at the end of this game. These games against the Boston Celtics, they literally just needed a bucket or 2 or 3, and he could be that guy. And maybe they're looking at the TV deal that the NBA is signing and saying, oh, this is a lot of money. I hope it's a lot because we want to pay Siakam a lot. And maybe it'll work out because of it. But it is, that's a bad joke. But to say Siakam is going to be better at 34 is definitely not true. Like, you're right. He is aging slightly. But he looks like a playoff performer in a complementary role. Yeah. He can't be a number 1 guy. And it is on Halliburton to get better and to keep those hammies healthy. I think the physical problem there with him, it's twice this year where there's problems with his hamstring. And the development of Mathurin, who is more of a one-way guy. But it seems like, when you look at their roster, they've got enough talent.
In terms of that contract extension, when you can expect it, both sides are eligible starting on the first day after the finals to negotiate that deal. So it could come immediately after the finals end if they are, which we expect, just going to offer him that big old max contract and hopefully lock him up. Next one here. after yet another early playoff exit. The 76ers might need to add a big star here in hopes of taking that next step, pairing someone with Embiid and Maxey. So ESPN's Brian Windhorst reported the Sixers would love to add 9-time All-Star Paul George, though we've heard whispers Brandon Ingram could be plan B if you don't get Paul George. Chris Herring says Philly should go for LeBron, dream big. And according to the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Sixers are prepared to give Jimmy Butler a max salary extension if things align and he forces a trade out of Miami. So they are like star hunting. I know Donovan Mitchell's been linked. Zach LaVine has been thrown out there. Like the possibility of the Sixers getting a big guy. Tass, you got to start it here. Fill in the blank. The Sixers should target blank in free agency.
It's Paul George. They got to go big as possible. You get one shot with Joel Embiid. I don't want to go Eminem, but you got to pay whoever it is as much as you possibly can. And maybe it's Paul George not getting that same amount of money from the Clippers. Kawhi signed an extension. Why didn't Paul George sign an extension? And it was only for 3 years for Kawhi. Maybe Ballmer doesn't want to go 4 years, and that's where the Sixers come in. That's where Daryl Morey comes in for an All-Star last year. This guy was really, really good. I am guilty, like everybody, that kind of just looks past Paul George because we've seen an incredible peak where he was in the conference finals doing his thing, then the injury, and now he's just a really good player and would be a far better player than Brandon Ingram because he can create on his own and create for others and be a great guy when others create for him. He's great on catch and shoots, 45% from last year, and this is just would be a huge bonus for Joel Embiid because that's the other big question in this one. Will Joel Embiid be able to stay healthy? Paul George can take it upon himself to be the number one guy at times. Mm-hmm. While, Maxey is very good and did that at times, but now Paul George would be such an upgrade. And with Tobias coming off the books, pay the man who was really, really, really good last year. His percentages are ridiculously good. So I don't know what situation he wants, if he wants to stay in LA, but you look back at his career. He was in OKC. Didn't look like he wanted to stay there. Signed an extension there.
Left.
And then he left. So, yeah, this could be one of those where you sign a deal and then it's not forever. But
No.
Who knows? It depends if they win. OKC obviously didn't win. Russ left. And then it was a different team. But this is you got to show Embiid for one final time. I mean, you got to put all your chips in.
Right.
And there's nobody else that's better out there.
What about LeBron James, if available? I know. Okay, so you say the Sixers with a realistic board of names that they could go get in free agency, you would have Paul George.
I don't know if that's realistic as well. I mean, he has a player option for next year. He could be easily say, I want to stay in LA. Mm-hmm. I'm an LA guy. My podcast set is set up here. I'm happy here. Right. So I don't know. Yeah. Nobody knows. But Daryl Morey, he takes risks. And this would be a risk at 33 years old as well. He's not young.
Fill in the blank, TK. Are you going with Paul George or somebody else?
Somebody else. I actually disagree. I don't think they should go after a big star. Paul George is 34 years old. This guy wants to be paid 4 years, $212 million. You're $50 million when he's 38. He played 74 games last season. That's awesome.
Damn, he's 34. I keep saying he's 33. Just turned 34. You're right. You're right.
But the previous 4 seasons, 48 games, 54, 31, 56. You got to have an absolutely reliable guy next to Joel Embiid because he's going to miss 20 games. Mm-hmm. And Embiid should play like 50 games a season at this point. So you have to be awesome when Embiid is out. And to me, that doesn't mean spending all of your cap on Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George. I also don't think they should go for like Jimmy Butler. He's old. Shouldn't go for Brandon Ingram. He's always hurt. LeBron, sure. I mean, honestly, I would take LeBron. He's the number one choice. If he wants to play for you, get him. I don't care if he's hurt because he'll be there in the playoffs. Right. OG Anunoby would be awesome, but I think he's going to stay with the Knicks.
Yeah.
Klay Thompson, he's old. I would go for role guys. I think it doesn't make sense to pay big three and then all minimum contracts with the second apron coming. So I would rather see the Sixers go after Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Andre Drummond. You get a defensive wing, a guy who shoots threes in KCP, who's always healthy. You get Andre Drummond, who can be a spot starter when Embiid is sitting down. Take that $60 million in cap space they have and get players who are actually going to be able to play for you in the playoffs so you don't have 5 guys like always happens for the Philadelphia 76ers. Look at the teams that are going deep in the playoffs. They've got a lot of good guys, not just 3 good guys, and then they're trying to find the other 2 who are around. So I don't really think the stars and scrubs method is going to work anymore.
Right. And that maybe goes back to what I said with Bobby Marks saying teams were thinking and looking at sort of what the Pacers have done here. That's sort of what you're saying. Maybe the money goes to 2 guys and not 3, because then you have nothing left for the rest of your roster, and maybe you want to fill it out a bit more. When you have an MVP guy in Embiid, always injured, there is that issue. And then Maxey took a jump and is like in the conversation of all NBA, and so maybe you flush it out. They have big decisions here, but Morey does like to go after a big old name, and Paul George is good.
Damn good.
And maybe it's one of those, you're definitely doing a calculation like, damn, we want to win right now. It's got to happen in the first year or 2 of that giant-ass deal for whoever this player is. Let's say it's hypothetically Paul George, and it was going to get real ugly late. If it's whatever you said, 50 plus, close to 60 plus, or close to 60, I should say.
A lot
I mean, the
of
numbers
money.
are getting wilder and wilder too, but there's
Guys
that.
are going to be signing $80 million a year contracts pretty soon.
Yeah, very soon.
Wasn't there was the analysis that it literally could be triple digits at some point.
100 million
Yes,
for a year.
yes. So Daryl Morey's, he's got to do it. He loves going after it. He sure does. And Joel Embiid, how many more years with Philly does he have left? That's my other questions. That's why you try and do this now. But they also it's so strange when you look at their salary breakdown now. I mean, there's like literally nobody signed next year.
Yeah.
Beyond Joel Embiid, Paul Reed, and really not a lot. So, yeah, I think the guy who would put a max type of contract in there, that's Morey. That's Morey style.
Final one. This one's fun. Ben Simmons workout pics on Instagram. They dropped yesterday. It's an off-season tradition unlike any other, and we're not even in the off-season. Technically, he is. He has been. But here they are showing everyone on YouTube. One where he's lining up to take a shot. He's got the tank top on there, but then it comes off.
Look at that light.
And he's doing some nice lunges. Yeah,
the lighting.
People are saying, where's he doing this workout? It looks like a cool place. Yeah. Looks like he's in the Gravitron at the old fair there. That's a weird reference, but that's what it looks like to me. But fill in the blank. One word to describe the latest Ben Simmons workout pics is Trey.
Summer.
That's right.
The first 3 signs of summer. School is out, the pool is open, and Ben Simmons is working out in the gym with no shirt on.
Damn right, man. Woo!
Yeah.
It is
Summer.
here. It is here.
You still on the island skeets?
Hell yeah.
Why?
Look at him. He looks great. Look at that lunge. Look at him lining up to think about taking a shot that he won't take. My God.
It's a free throw.
Oh, is it? Yeah, he might.
Literally just a free throw.
Yeah, good. Practice those, Ben. Yeah, this is amazing. Like, I don't know. I was gonna say him and his team are like actually leaning into this bit now, but I'm not convinced they are. Like, he's just this is him. But what's your word? Is it summer for you as well?
No, I'm glad Trey went first because I don't have a one word because I did look at this like 3 different ways because you can look at Ben Simmons in 3 different ways. You can be way too positive. You can say, look at him. Look at the shape he's getting into. He's Russell Westbrook, but 8 years younger. Look how fit he's going to be. You can be, sensible, but still way too positive. He's had back problems the last few years. He's getting in that lunge position.
Yeah,
it looks like
true.
the back is looking better. I think this year will be his coming out party. Or you can be realistic. He's going to make $40 million next year and play fewer than 10 games. That's yes. real life. Like the shot with the beautiful light on him, it looks like an Instagram photo that people take. You can go Instagram life or reality. Instagram versus reality. The reality is he doesn't play in a lot of basketball games. It's easy to forget. He played in 15 last year, 42 the year before, and missed the entire year the year before that. So the reality is, versus that great IG photo, is that unfortunately his back is not holding up. And so how on earth can you think that he's going to play?
But don't you worry. Give it, what do you want to call it, 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even less now. We're going to get the footage. Shirt will be off. He'll be in a gym. He'll be one of those sort of small gyms with a whole bunch of windows, real nice natural light. But he'll be playing against guys you have no idea who they are. And he'll be looking good. He'll be cashing some threes, cashing some jumpers in transition. Just you wait.
Yeah, he will.
Contract year.
That's right.
Contract year for Big Ben.
Let's go, Ben.
That's true.
The thing with Ben Simmons is, he doesn't play. I mean, that's the thing. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
The secondary thing is when he plays, he's not good anymore. The guy's averaged 6 points a game the past 2 seasons. Yeah. He's a bench big.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the most expensive role player of all time.
He's not even a role player.
No.
He can't start.
I mean, his role is defense, I guess, when he played. No, you're right. No, you're right.
No, here's the thing. They play him at center.
Yeah.
He's not a center. He has to play point guard to be a good defender because of his size and his activity and his athleticism. Blanketing guys on the perimeter. He can't do that anymore.
Right.
So you're paying $40 million to a backup center who won't shoot and won't rebound, doesn't block shots. It doesn't make sense. It literally doesn't make sense. He's Russell Westbrook, who's 6'10", playing center.
Right. You're paying for the social content. These beautiful photos, these clicks. Content is key. All right, play along there. Fill in the blanks for all 4 of those. Before we go, tweet of the night.
Tweet of the night. Wow.
Twitter.
Oh, tweet of the night comes to us from a place called No Dunks Inc. You ever heard of it? One of the finest Twitter accounts on all of X.com. Yesterday on the show, I mentioned that Bill Walton is my favorite NBA player I never saw play. So we asked, who is your favorite NBA player you never saw play? Got some great responses. The number one answer by far, who do you think it was?
Wilt Chamberlain?
Not Bill Walton.
No? There was a lot of Wilt Chamberlains.
Yeah.
I saw an Isaiah Thomas.
There was a lot of Isaiah Thomas.
Oh, we got some young people out there, don't we?
Just wait.
Dr. J?
Magic.
Those were Magic, Isaiah Thomas, and Dr. J were like on the second tier of most answered, I would say. But the number one by far, Pistol Pete.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he would have been a social media star back in the day. He's like, what if Steph Curry and white chocolate Jason Williams were one guy?
Right.
Who wore floppy socks and had a Fu Manchu mustache.
Yeah.
Incredible look. So that was a big one that came up a bunch. Like I said, Magic, Isaiah, and Dr. J. My favorite answers to see, Elgin Baylor. People throwing it way back.
Wow.
Moses Malone. That one to me is like, he's high on my list because like, that is a legend I feel like is completely forgotten about.
Absolutely.
He's known for offensive rebounding. You never see like Moses Malone's greatest games come across, so I like that one. Pistons, Grant Hill. Awesome player to watch. Arvydas Sabonis, awesome to watch. Our guy Nate Jones said Earl the Pearl Monroe. Great one.
Oh, that's good. I put Walt Frazier for my real answer.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, because I didn't see any of him. You see the highlights, and I think I would have loved him.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense that he's one of the greatest players of all time. And you're like 15-9, or like his career stats, but he's like well known as one of the best defensive guys ever. How about you? You got a favorite old guy you never saw?
Wow, it depends on the era. Because I missed a lot of the 1980s, I got to be honest. Mm-hmm. I went as simple as possible. I went Larry Bird in the 80s because, I was in the late 1900s. I saw everything. But the Bird getting his back hurt, it wasn't the same. I didn't feel the 80s championships. So, the Celtics teams, and maybe I was on, the Bill Walton tick as well because he was there and we're just talking about Bill. So there's that part as well. But all these guys are so good. I hear some oldies say the Moses Malone is a really good one because some older fans say Moses Malone was incredible, and they love that 76ers team of him and Dr. J, and those were teams. There's so many freaking guys that you gotta appreciate here.
The ones that really made me feel old. Multiple people said Lamar Odom.
Yeah.
Somebody picked Orlando Magic Dwight Howard.
Yeah, that was a weird
10
one.
years ago, man.
We're old.
That's the thing about Twitter. There's little babies on there. If you didn't see Dwight Howard, you have to be like...
You have to be very young.
12.
You gotta be very young. And also, that's a weird answer. Dwight Howard was awesome, but I don't think you really gotta go back and relive the Dwight Howard days all that much personally. He was awesome. He was great. Incredible defensive player. He did have hops, but I'm sure you've seen his dunk contest and all that. He was a comical guy. But I like the Moses Malone because I'm thinking of okay, prime Bird, prime Magic, duh. Like if you were of age and you didn't see him, but you've seen so many clips of those guys. Like you have an idea,
right?
Yeah. It's you can't think of. I haven't seen a whole lot of Moses Malone clips, like highlights, or mixtapes. Except he only comes up when someone does the Jokic miss the shot of 3 times to get 3 rebounds. That's the only time it feels like Moses comes up.
Same goes for Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game. It wasn't on film. And we always reference that back when a guy has a 70-point game and he takes out his piece of paper and it says 70 on it. That's Wilt scoring 100, and that would have been nice because there's all the myth idea that maybe he didn't score 100 points in Hershey, Pennsylvania at that time. So there's that. But yeah, the Maravich as well. Also, just
Great one.
No one sees it. No. So nobody. But yeah, people do see guys in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Now you've seen Magic's passes.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody has.
Good stuff. Appreciate everybody replying to that tweet. There's some funny answers to make us all feel old. Let's call it there. Like I said, we're going to be back for the drop on Friday to break down Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. But we're also going to have a show on YouTube tomorrow. We're hitting the beach. You told me we have a bunch of great questions.
I definitely know that we have a lot of great questions.
And that means we're going to have a great show on the YouTubes. So join us.
I'm slightly surprised by that.
What?
We were having a discussion about that. The tube versus not having it on the tube versus...
No, we're having it on the tube.
I know.
Tube versus feed.
Yeah, tube versus feed.
Well, I'm telling you, if you're listening to this right now, come join us on YouTube tomorrow when we hit the beach. Come check it out. Come see our beautiful faces. We're going to wear our best shirts tomorrow. Well, we should wear beach shirts, really.
Yeah. That's why you're getting a haircut today, right?
Well, I'm getting it tomorrow.
Exclusive.
I'm getting it after the beach. So
well,
come see my tall hair tomorrow.
make it even taller.
I'll make it as tall as I can tomorrow. Okay, I promise you that.
Cool. I'll go the opposite way. Okay. I'll make mine as flat as possible.
Oh, Lucas style. All right. All right, thanks for joining us here today. We'll see you tomorrow on YouTube. Till then, Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us, and remember, come join us on YouTube tomorrow. We got a Tully, we got a Flatty, and I will go splits. I'll go half tall,
Ooh.
half flat. Somehow.
Brace the day, people.